People of the internet, Andrew Schultz finally realizes that the Rogansphere comedy bubble has burst and there's nothing left but burned up boats. Let's check out his reaction when he finally realizes that his ticket sales are bad and maybe his comedy career is finally over.
Like I think the bubble has subsided a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can tell that by our ticket sales. We feel that.
So recently, Schultz had Chris and Giannis on his podcast where they got into a conversation about how AI is ruining everything. They discussed.
Wait, so you're telling me that the guys that used to sell out arenas don't have good ticket sales? Now, I hate to tell you this. But once again, I am right. Because do you remember when I was showing you the Ticketmaster pages and the arenas with tons and tons and tons of seats that didn't sell? And you guys were like, no way. They make more money than you in a single day than you'll make in your entire life, bruh. And you kept telling me I was wrong. That's your first mistake. Because very rarely am I wrong. You can go back and watch all the videos, and I am like the prophet of comedy gossip, just giving you a very well-timed heads up for what's to come.
Because the idea that eventually people might grow tired of it and start craving real human experiences again, including in comedy, and that authenticity could make a serious comeback.
Have to come in. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling my daughters to be plumbers or some type of trade.
There's not going to be nano robots that you can just dump in there and they take
You're
care.
not letting them into your house.
Yeah. There's going to be discrimination against fucking robots.
Oh yeah, that's what's going to. I'm actually excited about AI because this is going to get rid of our division. We're all going to come together versus them. White, black, Spanish, trans, Chinese. It don't matter. We're going to be up, and that's why I think it's good for all businesses. Not now. We got to get through this storm, but then eventually there's going to be a major need for. I want the human version of that. I want the human feet.
Yeah.
I want the human script.
Yeah.
I want the human
organic
plumber.
Do you feel that way with teeth now? Like you see an actor with real teeth, like they don't have veneers.
It is nice.
Kind of nice.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I believe this.
Wait, so you're telling me that these guys want authenticity and that the future depends on authenticity? Well, I mean, it looks like either way they go, they don't have a career because these guys are about as authentic as a jersey you buy on TikTok. These guys don't have an ounce of authenticity. So how are they going to survive this? Either way it goes. The answer is the only reason they survived was because Joe Rogan gave them a chance to be in his little butt buddy club.
Character is a working class guy.
Yeah.
And then when you see one of these actors that has like these perfect veneers, you're like, I don't think you're working at the shop.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like authenticity comes back in a major way,
100%.
however we can find it.
I think so.
You know, like seeing things that are a little bit broken.
Yeah.
Like the music that's going to come out is going to be this perfect version of everything. Like, well, what if, early recordings of like hip hop, like in the 90s where you could kind of like hear the reverberation in the speakers. Like, I wonder if that is in the same way vintage clothing is kind of cool to this generation because they're like, oh, this was this real moment. I wonder if that manifests in all art.
I think it will. I agree with you. I think that's because it's already the unique experience. Like, seeing people on screens is like
easy.
Nothing now.
Yeah.
So now going to see someone live is like being on TV used to be.
Oh, that's it.
Then they pivot, as all deep philosophical debates must, into how this whole mess translates into comedy. Schultz, ever the economist, concludes that people do want to create and attend live shows, they just prefer not to go bankrupt doing it. This is where things start to get interesting because Giannis casually suggests that maybe, just maybe, Schultz could lower his ticket prices. And you can practically see the alarm bells go off in Schultz's head. He gets the...
I find it really funny that Schultz takes himself so serious and thinks he's like so honest, deep, and true. When this man literally changes his whole persona, his whole look, the whole vibe of whatever he's doing at that point based on his YouTube analytics. This guy will turn into whatever you want him to as long as he keeps making money. And then he's out there talking about authenticity and apparently charging massive ticket sales. And if you haven't seen any of the Rogansphere comedy specials this year, Schultz is definitely terrible. He went after the mommy and daddy crew with his comedy special. He literally... I told myself, I've been trying my hardest to listen to the feedback and calm down a little bit. So this is a moment. Don't ever say I didn't do anything for you, because this is a moment where that one comment ran across my brain. And I said, don't carry on.
Offensive faster than a cat hearing a vacuum turn on. Then, in a shocking twist absolutely no one saw coming, they acknowledge the obvious, that times are rough for comedians. Groundbreaking stuff, really.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So the live experience is not replicatable by AI. So we want to go do live things, but live shit is so fucking expensive now that people are kind of like hesitant.
Well, lower your fucking prices, dude.
I'm not on the road.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Smart to not be on the road right now.
Why, is the road rough right now?
Yeah, it's not great.
So I wonder, I had a theory about this with comedy, actually. Yeah. I think that like I think the bubble has subsided a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can tell that by our ticket sales. We feel that.
Go check out Giannis and Chris on the road.
Go see Property Owner.
No, but I think there's a version of it. Like I remember Shane and I were doing a show in Canada, and it was an outdoor show, and there was fucking like 40,000 people. Like people were sitting on a bridge watching the show from the bridge, right? And I was like, yeah, this is the end of it. Like it should never be this big. Right. And it has to kind of come down. It doesn't mean it comes all the way down. But I think that like after COVID, everybody wanted to be outside. They wanted to laugh. Comedy dominated the culture. The most influential person in the world loves comedy. And because of that, there's like, interest in the people that he influences, obviously Rogan. And I think everybody got those experiences. And I think for a little bit now, they're just like, all right, we're cool. We saw 4 or 5 shows.
Yeah.
And then.
Now, before we go.
All right, guys, it is time for today's life lesson. So get comfortable, snuggle up in your blankie, pour yourself a hot cup of cocoa, and listen in. Now, you always see people in every industry, like your job. Oh, you're just a cashier. You're not a manager. You're taking too long. By this time in life, I already done this. You're just a low-level movie star. You're just a junior varsity basketball player. No matter where you go in life, don't listen to that shit. Because the only time you have, and it's not even guaranteed to continue, is right now. And let me tell you something about the world. Only a very, very small few of you on this planet will get to the top of whatever industry, job, hobby, sport. And then there's the rest of us that will get to varying degrees and will never see that. So here's the life lesson. Enjoy what you're doing now. And if you're doing something and you're not enjoying it, stop doing that and enjoy something else. Because it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, what level, rank, status you are. All you have is all you have in that moment and nothing more. And like I said, even that is not guaranteed to continue. So in order to enjoy what you're doing, you have to choose for yourself who you are, what that's not a controversial. I was about to say what you are, but I didn't mean it like that. We're not going down that road. Politics has done that enough. But what I'm saying, what you're made of is a better way to phrase it. And what you, nobody else, not the voices that are trying to distract you, not the voices that are trying to belittle you, critique you. Listen to you. And if you do that, you will always enjoy your life. You may not enjoy moments. You may not enjoy a job. You may not even enjoy a long period of time. But that's not the real joy. The real joy is no matter what you are going through, there is no joy like making those decisions for yourself and knowing that you chose your life and nobody else did. You know, I don't think there is a greater example of this. And it's one of my favorite songs of all time. Could be a little cliche, but I mean, the song is so powerful. And if you just sit there and you listen and you feel those words and it's mixed with the music ramping up, it's spectacular. But Frank Sinatra, the My Way song, he said it right. You know, I did it my way. Anyways, choose your own path. You can't help it. You know, it's a lot of luck to be at the top. And if you get to the top, you soon realize you won't be there very long because they always want to cut the head off the king. So enjoy it. And also, don't be scared to try new things. You never know what you're missing until you're missing it. And the only way to miss it is to try it for the first time. And maybe you hate it, but try new things, make your own decisions, and you'll always be glad and enjoy that you did.
Any further, let me just say, I actually like Chris and Giannis. I think they're funny, insightful, and don't seem to be auditioning for a spot on Mount Rushmore via Joe Rogan's approval. Schultz, on the other hand, he's basically the golden standard for what happens when you spend enough time orbiting Rogan's gravitational pull and polishing the throne. And speaking of Joe Rogan, let's not pretend he isn't a key player in the great comedy decline. He's become the unofficial talent scout for the aggressively average comedian Hall of Fame, pushing mid-tier comics as if they're generational geniuses. I mean, this is the same guy who once tried to convince the world that Brendan Schaub was funny. That's not just a red flag, that should permanently disqualify you from ever deciding who's funny again. And to be honest, Rogan's not exactly light years ahead of Schaub himself. If you managed to sit through his last special without checking your phone or your pulse, congratulations, you have the patience of a monk. Calling it this.
If you still think Joe Rogan is funny, he is the reason for Brendan Schaub. And he promoted Brendan Schaub more than anything or anyone did. And you guys will be like, no, he didn't. Now, let's state some facts to prove that wrong. During the time period of Brendan Schaub, Joe Rogan has been, we'll say, either on the way up to the top, near the top, or at the top during that period. And you go, so Joe doesn't promote him. Well, let me tell you that. Let me tell you something, right? A spot on the Joe Rogan podcast can make you millions overnight. It can make you famous. It can change your entire world, your career, whatever it is you're doing, the products you're selling, it can transform it overnight. If we were to monetize that spot on Joe Rogan, especially during the prime era that Brendan Schaub got to be on all the time, if not the most, Joe Rogan has put him. So hold on. That spot is very valuable, very expensive. Now, and Joe Rogan has had this guy on over 80 times. Now, would you consider Joe Rogan one of the best marketing platforms you could get on and one of the best uses of your money? We could disagree about now, but still now it's incredibly valuable. But back then, when Joe Rogan didn't split his fan base and he was almost like an icon in the making, it was very, very profitable and a very great use of marketing. And he's responsible for Brendan Schaub, even if you don't want to admit it.
Disappointing would be generous. Now, credit where it's due, sometimes Rogan gets it right. Shane Gillis is a perfect example. The guy kills it on stage and actually has the chops to back up the hype. But when you're out here hyping Brendan Schaub, Bert Kreischer, and Andrew Schultz like they're the holy trinity of comedy, your judgment starts to look deeply compromised. At this point, I generally think Rogan is the main culprit behind the comedy slump. There's only so long you can keep selling recycled frat boy energy and
always right
punchlines before the audience starts doing the math. And eventually people figure it out and decide they'd rather keep their money than watch another mediocre comedian. Now, Schultz keeps going, saying he doesn't think comedy will go away, but he believes there will be a reset. And honestly, I hope that's true, because we desperately need a reset in the comedy scene, especially when it comes to who gets popular. Most comedians nowadays, with a few exceptions, made it to the top based on how many podcasts they've appeared on, not because their stand-up material is actually any good.
I don't think it goes away entirely, but I think there's a little bit of a reset.
100%.
There's gonna be a purge.
Yeah.
You think it's purge?
There's gonna be some we're cutting the fat or whatever. Like
I just think
certain
it's a
comics
little,
are gonna whatever, certain comics are gonna sustain, and you're just gonna see things kind of.
That's why I think the comedy clubs like I know there's a lot of people that they can't wait to get out of comedy clubs. Comedy clubs.
I love comedy. I can't wait to go back to them.
No, comedy clubs because that's what thrives during this time. It's like going to do a show. Like, don't get me wrong, the arenas are fucking awesome. It's amazing, etc. But
Tell me.
Is he seriously about to downplay arenas now? It was only like 3-4 months ago or during like winter, Christmas and New Year that every show in the Rogansphere is like, bro, did you do arenas? And like, yeah, I did arena. How sick is that? That's like the coolest thing ever. They treat you like kings. You're not a real comic until you did an arena. And now he's just like, yeah, like playing arenas, man. It's like playing on the corner, it's not a big deal, nothing fancy. There's a guy across the street holding a sign. This is my point exactly. If you thought I was wrong about Andrew Schultz, he has proved himself in one episode that he is willing to change himself and his opinion to meet whatever the status quo is of the time, or in other words, to appease whoever's running the narrative for society and our politics, whatever that is, to fit the mold so he can continue to make money. I just don't understand how you can sell yourself out for money. I think one of the most valuable things, and one of the only things that is truly, truly yours, and yours 100% to control, and that's yourself. Your mind, your feelings, your well-being, your dignity. And for me, even to a fault, even to my own detriment, I always stand up for what I believe in. And now, get it right. This isn't some moral grandstanding. I'm not this great person. I'm mostly a man that has been pieced together by his mistakes. But one thing I've always been good at is standing my ground, standing what I believe in, and not selling myself out. There is a piece of you that gets taken away when you become a sellout, and you can never get it back. And when people find out, they will never look at you the same. Oftentimes, even the hypocrites, because they know exactly how it feels. And I urge you to not listen to the voices, to not listen to what the popular crowd is saying, to not feel the peer pressure because someone else's insecurities are not providing what they need, so they're trying to steal from yours. I urge you to stay true to yourself, because there is nothing physical in this world that you can keep. But who you are, how you feel about the world, and what makes you is the only thing you truly have 100% ownership. And I urge you, once again, I'm getting to the point. I've said I urge you a million times. I urge you to treat that with the most upright care and do not give that shit away. Because once it is gone, you can only get pieces of it back, and it'll never feel the same. And you will always, always be disappointed that you did.
About it.
I don't. I will.
I love them.
They're incredible. No. But like, I don't think anybody gets tired of seeing their favorite comic with 200 people in a room.
It's
300 people in a room. It's like incredible.
Also, too, the audience. One thing I realized too, the audience doesn't really care about the difference. Like, if you want to go do a theater or an arena, it's amazing. Obviously, make money, big people. But then you run the risk of like someone sitting in section 10,000 that was like, oh, I didn't even really think he was that funny. And it's not the performance. Like, you were distracted. You're as far away as possible.
You got to make the show for them. Like that was the thing.
That's
when
a lot
we
of
were on the
pressure.
road. It's like when we were doing these big venues, it was like very intentional. How do you make the show so those people up there can experience it as close to those people down there? And I think a lot of people just go, oh, I do comedy shows in comedy clubs. Now I'm in a theater of 5,000 people. I'll just do the same thing. And it's like, well, people aren't going to come back if that's what you do. It has to change. When you do 50 people in a little like a one-off room in the city, it's going to be different than when you do 500 people. Yeah. Like, do you remember going to your first like Funny Bone where it was like 500 people?
Yeah.
And do you remember like your jokes feeling thin?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, whoa, this is a little bit different. Like, when there was 200 people packed in the cellar, I'm ripping, and all of a sudden it feels a little bit distant, right? So I think there has to be that adjustment. I think it just exploded, and I'm curious what happens the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, my hope for the next 5 years is that comedy will go back to being about, comedy, not a glorified podcast popularity contest. Because lately it feels like the stand-up scene has turned into a race to see who can launch the most mediocre takes with the most expensive microphones. It's less about punchlines and more about Patreon tiers. And maybe, just maybe, comedians will stop pretending they're qualified to run the Pentagon. Somewhere along the way, the green room turned into a think tank, and now every comic thinks they're a hybrid of Jon Stewart, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and a TED Talk on alpha brainwaves. Schultz is the poster child for this phenomenon. Oof. The man has an opinion on everything: science, politics, global finance, you name it. I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped a special next week called Inflation Explained. At this
Yeah, I feel like, Schultz is kind of like the guy in his 40s that's still trying to seem cool and relevant, And it's only a matter of time, before he gets himself a giant, long, wooden beaded necklace, because that's the ultimate sign that you've made it, and you're cool, and you're hip, and you're certainly just on top of fashion and everything in society and culture. Just a big, long, oversized, wooden beaded necklace. That would complete Andrew Schultz. You know when you have one of those on, you're completely turned into your true form of douchebag.
I'm fairly certain Schultz unironically believes he could run for president, and what's worse, I'm not convinced his fan base wouldn't vote for him. So yeah, fingers crossed the next half decade brings us fewer podcasts disguised as comedy careers and more comics who actually focus on being funny.
Well, it's definitely going to recede for sure. Because you're right. It's gotten to the peak. Yeah. It's like Steve Martin said in his book when he went to the stadium and he was like, this is when I knew this was not comedy
sustainable.
Anymore. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it became a part of people's identity to like comedy, want to see comedy, less than it was, I just like that person, I want to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's almost like football in Europe. Mm-hmm. Like I got to go see Man U because that's my team and I got to do it. Like comedy was people's team in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think like now it goes, if I really like that person, I need to go see them.
And the problem is too, mention the economy. It's like they might really want to go see you, but for other comics who are on similar universes and podcasts,
$300 a night.
They went and saw them, and they're like, I just don't have the money. I really would love to see you. I just don't have. And if maybe that year you don't get picked.
Yeah.
These guys are all blaming it on the economy, right? You know, and I took a little hit of the doobie. I apologize. And I was just kind of laughing inside my head because the whole time they keep blaming like the ticket sales on the economy, but like the economy's like recovering. But I was just thinking if Donald Trump was there and he's like, why are you blaming it on the economy? It's the best and beautifulest economy ever. He'd be so mad. Oh man, the world is just getting crazy. Do you guys think we're in crazy times right now? I tell you what, dude. Every time I turn on the news, a new city is flooded. And I get the war, and I get the chaos, right? And I get the scandals and the fighting. Humans will do that forever, no matter who's actually right or wrong. But it gets an extra level of really, really scary when the earth gets pissed off. And if you haven't noticed, like every day someplace in America is flooded. You see some crazy shit. I turn on the news and there's a fucking house floating down a river. You be doing the Friday watching the news. It is getting wild, dude. I told my mom when she called me up and she was down in Florida, like, you see these crazy storms on the news? She's like, it's crazy raining down here. I was like, I know, up here it's raining balls. I thought, dude, it rained so hard the other night. The whole ground, it looked like it snowed, but it was hail. It was incredible, you know, and it knocked the internet out. It straight out knocked the internet out. I just like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I told my mom, I said, do you think we're going to like face some kind of like end of the world situation? And I don't mean the war. I said, do you think the earth is finally tired of us? Because these floods are fucking insane. Anyways.
They just saw you 18 months ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually agree with Chris. I do think a lot of people don't necessarily have the money to attend multiple comedy shows, especially when every comic and their podcast co-host are touring at the same time, hitting up the same 10 cities and fighting for the same pool of overstimulated fans. Yeah. And let's be honest, at that point, it's not even about who's the funniest. It's about who's got the best marketing team, the flashiest Instagram reel, or the most viral heckler destroyed clip on TikTok. Your stand-up material could be razor sharp, but if you don't have a neon thumbnail and a dramatic title, you're invisible. Comedy used to be about timing, craft, and clever perspective. Now it's about merch, email lists, and praying Joe Rogan name drops you between elk hunting stories. It's no longer are you funny, it's how many followers do you have and can you fill a room full of people who don't mind paying $60 to hear recycled podcast bits live. So yeah, it seems like Schultz might have realized that it might be over for his kind, the ones who are all about marketing and disguise themselves as experts in everything when in reality, they're just average comics with big podcasts.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I told you months ago. And the JRE fans got on there, you know, using whatever insult they could, whatever insult. The Kill Tony fans, they thought that just because they put a comment on my YouTube that it was going to stop the inevitable. And the inevitable was the Rogansphere is dying. It's time that we just let it go. And we take it and we bury it out in the backyard. And then we forget about it. Never bring it up again. You know, just it's like one of those bad times in your life where you bury it far, far away. You when you think about that thing, you grab it real quick and you put it in a catapult and you launch it as far away as you can get and try never to remember. That is what I think we should do with the Rogansphere. I know many of you haven't discovered cold plunges yet, but let me tell you, it's not worth it. Let's just get rid of the Rogansphere and quite frankly, forget it ever happened.
Know you like to bang, you don't stay.